All right, guys, welcome back to the night shift. We're coming to you live from a secure facility located at the Lagrange point between crisis and opportunity. Thank you all for stopping in today. How's our sound? We good? All right. Welcome back. It's good to see everybody. It's been a busy week. There's so much shit going on. It's very hard to stay on top of it all. And so I picked today. I was like, I'm not going to overload the day. I'm just going to pick one thing, and we're going to deep dive on that one thing. Let's check on the chat, see who's here. Brett Higgins, Chris Hovard, our mods, the mod squad. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. Perplexed. Ebony McKickass, how are you? James Williams, Stephen Daedalus, Paris Diamonds, of course. Everybody. Great to see you all here. It's Members Only Monday, which, let's see here. We have a new member, Adam Durden. Welcome aboard. All right. Great to have you here. So today I'm going to make some bold statements. Danny Sheehan just melted my brain. And I have Xander to thank for this because I hadn't watched this full video until yesterday, really. I sat down and went through the whole thing a couple of times. And it was the Yale teach-in event that the New Paradigm Institute did about 2 weeks ago, which I actually got a very kind invitation to attend. I couldn't be there, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to actually sit in the room. But I wish I had been there because it's a shocker. I'm convinced at this point, where we're at right now, we're in the middle of the very beginning of the biggest event ever. And 99.999% of people have no clue. They have no idea. These people are completely tuned out or they're focused in on their own lives, but this is not on their radar at all, which means that if you're watching this, if you're a part of this conversation right now, you are so far ahead of the curve. And look, what we're going to talk about today, it all sounds fantastic. As in wildly out there. I get it. I continually have to go back and forth on this, and I have to reality check myself and do a little sanity check. I try to do it every week or two, really, just to kind of touch base, make sure that I'm grounded in base reality to some degree. Because the stuff that I'm reading, it's just so over the top. It's hard to even say it out loud. And yet, not only are people saying it out loud, but the people saying it out loud are in a position to know some stuff. And so we're going to look at Danny Sheehan's presentation at Yale. We're going to break down 3 specific clips. You should watch the full presentation. It was actually Kevin Knuth, Jim Garrison, and Danny. You can go to the New Paradigm Institute website. You can go to their YouTube page, which is probably the easiest place to go, and find the full videos and watch them. But it's I don't know. It's heavy stuff. So what it looks like to me from where I'm sitting right now is there's this full court press going on to stitch together a coherent narrative about where we're at, what exactly is happening, and to start making the case in a much more organized, well thought out way kind of gather it all together and present it to the public in advance of some pretty big events or one huge event, which seems more and more likely depending on who you listen to and how often you pay attention. But it seems like lately 2027 is coming up an awful lot. And the question has been for a while now, certainly for well over 20 years, there have been rumors that there's some sort of an impending event, right? There's something that's going to happen that's going to be so huge, so impossible to miss, so impossible to ignore that there won't be, it's not just going to be one, large sighting or lights in the sky somewhere or, somebody saying that they had contact in a channeling session or something. We're talking about a global super event that is going to put this conversation to rest once and for all. That has been rumored forever. As far back as you want to go in ufology, you could find references of stuff like that being talked about. However, it's being talked about a lot more frequently lately. And we're starting to get specific about what exactly could be coming. And there are different things going on in this space that all kind of lean on each other and reinforce each other. For instance, the pretty credible rumors at this point that there is going to be some announcement that there's been a techno signature detected on an exoplanet. That's pretty much that's kind of a done deal. I mean, it's we're just waiting for it to happen, but we have it on very good authority that that's coming. Potential biosignatures on another planet, possibly a moon. A lot of different things are in the pipeline. But this 2027 thing has been floating around for a long time. And adding jet fuel to that fire was when Lou put out his book. The clue is in the name. David Jacobs. I always talk about David Jacobs. I'm a fan of his work. I'm a fan of his approach to this. Author of The Threat and Walking Among Us. There you go. In his work with abductees, talked frequently about how shockingly common it was for them to tell him that they were aware that they had some kind of a task that they were assigned. They were given some kind of, they were programmed to do something. There's some kind of a job that they are supposed to perform. And a time will come where they are called upon. These are abductees called upon to do something. And they can, despite our best hypnotic techniques, our best efforts, we can't find out precisely what it is that these abductees are talking about. But they know they've been instructed to do something. And he goes deep on the alien hybrid situation, hypothesis. I don't know what you want to call it, but the alien hybrid situation, as in abductees are being taken, not just recently, but for a long time, they've been taken aboard craft, genetic experiments, medical experiments, procedures were performed on these people. They are sometimes communicated with directly. Sometimes they see other humans on board craft. Sometimes they're abducted in groups. Sometimes they're abducted individually. Sometimes they're abducted generationally in a family from, 2 or 3 generations deep. And according to Lou Elizondo, recently in the last couple, well, I'd say 2-3 years, it's come out, and not just Lou, others have talked about this, that people with particular genetic markers or bloodlines have been selected for. They seem to be more frequently involved in this. And Jacobs goes on to explain that, and Bud Hodgins worked on this as well for a number of years before he passed away, and talks about this in his book, Missing Time. But these genetic medical experiments that are being done for the purpose of producing hybrid children. And these hybrid children, in the early stories that you read, look very weird. I'm coming back to Danny Sheehan. I'm going to loop back around. Don't worry, we'll get back to that. But as the stories go on and as time passes, people report seeing hybrids that look just a little weird. And then they look just a little, maybe they are a little different, but can't quite put your finger on what's, and then they just look like us. And you start to hear this. And now that they for some reason we don't quite yet understand, have been able to produce hybrid beings that look exactly like people. And this has been talked about by a number of different people, including up to and including Lou has talked about the Nordics. There's a whole conversation about a race of people that looks very similar to humans that we've been in contact with. So there's a lot of lore here, and there's a history of this story developing over time. But what happened recently in the last 2 weeks, Danny Sheehan went to Yale and gave a presentation with Jim Garrison and Kevin Knuth. I hope I'm saying that right. And he laid it all out. He laid out the entire case. And for those of you who have been wondering, like, what exactly is going on, like, we've got Carl Nell over here, and we have Lou Elizondo over here, and occasionally David Grush comes out and says something, and people are popping up here and there, and they're adding little bits and pieces to the story. Well, what Sheehan did was take all of this, and he makes the case. He lays it all out, and he says, this is what's going on. This is what the government knows. And what's interesting about him doing it is because it's him, because of who he is, he's in a position to have a full picture of what's going on. This is a guy who represented John Mack. He represents Lou Elizondo and David Grush, and at one time represented the Disclosure Project, Stephen Greer's project. He has been involved in this community for decades, and I'm assuming because of attorney-client privilege and his involvement in the Carter administration and all of the different things that he's done, he's had contact with enough of these people to be able to get a coherent idea of what the bigger picture is. So when it comes from him, you're getting what I believe to be accurate information, but put in proper context with other accurate information, if I can put it that way. So that's what's so stunning about what he had to say, because in about 49 minutes, he lays out the entire case, he explains the entire situation, and he makes a mind-melting prediction. And I don't even know how else to set this up. It's like, he says that we need to get ready for an alien intervention. A mass contact event is imminent, more or less. I'm going to play the clip for you guys, and you judge for yourself. But by the end of it, Xander played this for me last week. We were doing another live stream, and he's like, I just want to spring this on you. Yeah, you haven't seen this yet, right? And I said, no. And he goes, let me just play this like quick. It's like 3 minutes. And so we were watching this, and I'm visibly stunned. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. He describes the abduction situation. He describes the alien base situation, undersea alien base. He gives a location. He talks about where this thing is. He talks about the different species, how many different species we actually have contact with. He describes them. And he says that he has been in the room face to face with an individual who has conducted interviews with these beings, or has been participated in these interviews with beings. So that makes Danny's 2 degrees of separation away, or 1 degree, however you look at it, depending on who you talk to. But that's astonishing. So I've been just trying to wrap my mind around it, and I pulled some clips. I thought today we would go through those and kind of talk about what it all means. Because it's not just the fact that he says there is going to be an intervention. It's the argument as to why that's coming and what we need to do. And when he kind of describes what we need to do and how he makes it reminded me immediately of Lou saying on Jesse Michael's podcast the other day, we need to start having this conversation. I think this is the conversation he's talking about. I think what you're seeing right now is a coordinated effort across multiple different people making appearances, presenting different facets of this story tailored for the demographic that they're speaking to. Danny says in this presentation that he's trying to make the case that academia needs to pick up this effort and begin preparing people for an intervention that's going to reveal their presence. And he's dead serious about this. He says, we need to get on this immediately. This is a critical moment. He says this is going to be a moment that is, and I'm quoting him here, they will remember this for the next 10,000 years. That's his statement. So if it was just anybody, I wouldn't be as blown away by it. But because of who Danny Sheehan is, if you don't know, look him up. We don't have time to explain all the stuff this man has done, but he's in a position to know. So take it with a grain of salt. But I want to get your impression of this because we're just going to have to look at it together. Okay, before we go there, let's check the chat and see what's going on. Oh, Josh Wheat, welcome aboard, new member. Thanks, great to have you here. Oh, you're exactly right. Josh says you're not crazy. Keep digging as you're right there, and reach out to me if you want proof. Well, we do want proof. I'll have to reach out. Josh, if you want to reach out to me, the best way to do it is to go to, and this goes for anybody if you want to just reach out, go to our website. I'm going to plug the site here real quick, teamnightshift.com. Go to make contact. If you click on make contact, it'll take you to this form. And when you hit punch it Chewy, it goes to me. So if you need to get directly in contact with me, this is the way to do it. Just heads up, I am backlogged on emails, so it might take me a little while to get back to you. People blow this up all the time, and they're sending me like 32-page PDF research projects that they've worked on, and they want me to read it all and give them my opinion. It's a lot, so I have to, just earmark time as I can to go through those. But if you need to get to me and you want to have an idea for a show, or you think you might be a good guest for a show and you have a story to tell, or there's something interesting you want to talk about, definitely reach out and let me know, and we'll make it happen. We'll try to anyway. And while we're here, just so you know, go to merch if you want to support the show. You can go down to merch. Free shipping on all shirts. Heads up, free shipping on all shirts. We have some new shirts. The new Night Shift text logo muscle tee, which I'm wearing today, actually. This is my new uniform. These are awesome. This is the shirt that got me through the last 4 weeks of just hot, humid, nasty weather. It's awesome. So these are out. We've got the t-shirt. We've got the ladies racerback tee. We've got the hat. We've got the new text only logo mug. So you can go here and check out our stuff. And if you want to support the show and just show people that you're one step ahead, it's a real conversation starter. I'll tell you that. It's cool when you're in the gym and you see somebody else wearing a Night Shift shirt, and then you really know. You're like, oh, okay, we can hang. So you can go here. If you go to research, we've done some updates here on the research tab. I've added some new things here. There's a few links to articles that are relevant, how the Pentagon started taking UFOs seriously. You can now explore the CIA's entire collection of UFO documents online. You can click this and it'll take you there. How to escape the confines of time and space, according to the CIA. This is about the Monroe Institute, HemiSync program, Soul Foundation, New Paradigm Institute. All this stuff is in here, so you can check that. You can also click the link to go to our Discord. If you click this, it's going to open up Discord. It's going to take you there, and you can join a Discord server. The coolest conversation anywhere on the planet. We're doing it all over there. What else? That's it for now. Check out our stuff. To update this homepage soon. That's my next thing. But if you want to see some quick clips and you just need to catch people up to speed on kind of where we're at, you can go to the homepage. And as you scroll down, We have a lot to add to this, but this is sort of an evolving timeline of people and statements that have been made recently. So very exciting. Good stuff. Hold up now. Ma Fink. Am I saying that right? Welcome. Welcome aboard. Thanks for becoming a member. We have some new members. Says, oh, Clint, you're killing it, dude. Say it loud and proud and true. Amazing into rehashing what Mr. Sheehan said in your own words. Much respect. Your empathy, patience, heart, and research proclaims me a member. That's awesome. Could NHI intervention lead to a new form of eco-totalitarianism where environmental preservation is enforced at the cost of human autonomy? That's an interesting question, and that's from Perplexed. That's an interesting question. I think it's interesting how you phrase that. A new form of eco-totalitarianism. There seems to be I don't know, that's got kind of a negative spin on it. I mean, I guess you have to ask yourself the question, can we sustain life on this planet? Can civilization be sustained at our current rates, our burn rate, right? Like we're burning through the natural environment, we're burning through resources at a tremendous speed. And that's only going to increase. Like you can see it now with AI. I know I've been beating the AI drum a lot lately, but we've got all the major AI companies now are talking about building their own nuclear reactors. And like we're going back all in on nuclear, which may be a good thing. Ultimately, it may turn out to be a great thing. But the point is, we're not burning less energy; we're burning more. Can we sustain this indefinitely? I don't think we can indefinitely. So something has to change. We obviously have to rethink our entire energy infrastructure and the way that we get our energy. That's critical. So, you know, how does that affect consumption patterns and everything else? Would you call, one person's eco-totalitarianism is another person's sensible regulation of corporate greed. It depends on how you look at it. I guess intervention can lead to anything. It's going to upset the apple cart. When you hear how Danny describes it, it's probably going to make you feel a little weird. In fact, I think it's definitely going to make you feel weird because it's actually a tone shift, I think, from what I expected Danny to say. Because when I first had the opportunity to speak with him, he came off as very optimistic and positive, and in this most recent presentation, less so. And I'll leave it at that until you guys make the call on what you think. Oh my God, Chris Hovord, you're giving away the farm here. You're like 1 million new memberships. Chris, you're killing me. Shout out to Chris for gifting another 10 memberships. I think you've given over 100 memberships away at this point. You are a true hero. Hey, Brett, our mod Brett, Chief Mod Brett Higgins says 629 viewers, a massive record. Thanks to everyone for joining in. Awesome. Great to see that you're up and around, my friend. And that's a great record. Yeah, Planet Algol says, in my house, everywhere I look, I see wasteful crap that's terrible for the planet. Think about that. Every time you go to a Walmart, first of all, if you want to feel like just as far as completely disconnected from your humanity and the planet as possible, just go to any Walmart and stand in a Walmart or whatever I don't know what the European version of Walmart is, but whatever. And you just look around and you go, everything in this place, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, is going to be in a landfill in probably less than 36 months. At least 80% of it is going to just be in the garbage, right? Like everything in there is made to fall apart. That's why they keep selling so much stuff. It's all junk. We all know this. Everything that we have has just been built to be replaced. Our whole concept of like what it's like to live in modern society is built on consumerism and massive consumption. And we've been brainwashed through corporate propaganda for your entire life to just consume, consume, consume. We can't conceive of anything else. In fact, there's a saying that's kind of funny. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism because it's so built into it's our operating system. We can't even start. We have no fundamental basis for anything else, which I think has a lot to do with the reason indigenous traditions are destroyed and suppressed to the extent that they are, because they do offer an alternative worldview and perspective. That's dangerous. But that's just my 2 cents. Rhett Carson says, I think humans don't care about conservation and the planet because we don't live long enough. We got to move fast, and then we burn out. If we lived a long time, we'd care about preserving things more. I don't disagree with you, but I'll say this. I mean, I turned 44 this year, and in my lifetime, I can see an enormous difference. I mean, come on, right? Like, look around. You can see it. Have you noticed, like, really most people that used to deny climate change have shut the fuck up. We really don't hear those people anymore. And even when you do, they're kind of quiet about it and they're way off in the corner. Like, those people, they're done. That's over. And it's obvious why. Because you can look around and you can see how fucked up the whole planet is. You can see the ecosystem collapsing all around you. Like, the data is clear. I think out of 32 tipping points, the scientists have identified in the ecosystem, climate tipping points, 25 of them have been passed. 25. It doesn't matter where in the world you live anymore. You can look around any time of year and see crazy weather that doesn't even make sense. Like Old Testament Yahweh weather of like biblical proportions all the time. It's not a rare event. It's normal now. That's the new normal. Snowstorms in Texas, Category 5 hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico, water as hot as a bathtub. You've got wildfires just burning out of control, torching millions of acres of forest. Just take your pick. It doesn't even matter anymore. So all of the people who were like, oh, it's not real, now they've gone to, well, it's real, but there's nothing we can do about it. These people are going to get us all killed. I'm telling you, if you were on a boat with somebody and your boat was sinking and you were trying to like put a solution together and figure out what you were going to do, and this person was just like, I don't believe it's sinking, you would chuck their ass overboard or you would snuff them out first. Like, those people have got to go. If you were on a desert island trying to survive and there was somebody out there who just didn't agree with reality and they weren't seeing it for what it was, that's when you come at them at night with the pillow. They got to go. There comes a point where you just have to jettison the bullshit. And those people, they've got to go. So that's the point of today's show, because what Jim Garrison spends he does about a 30-minute presentation in the same day at the Yale Teach-In. I didn't pull clips from Jim's presentation because it's so good. You need to watch the entire thing all the way through, but it's very dark. And he talks about the strategic nuclear situation and the climate change situation, and basically how dire those two things are. I'll see if I can pull one piece of that later, but he makes the case for why intervention is going to happen now. So this is all kind of a long-winded way of coming back to the main point. Something is coming. There's some kind of an event. Apparently, it's imminent. What is it? Why? Why now? Well, I've been telling you on this channel for a long time now, it's directly connected to the environmental ecosystem collapse that we're living through right now, the 6th Great Mass Extinction event that we're living through right now. That's a huge part of it. And then the other part of it is, of course, the fact that we're 90 seconds to midnight, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. We're as close to nuclear Armageddon as we have ever been in the history of anybody paying attention to this. And those two things combined mean that planet Earth is at an absolute crisis inflection point. Oh, and we're also about to give birth to artificial superintelligence, which could happen any day if it hasn't already happened. So those three things are all taking place right now. That's why now. It's not about us. It's about this planet and its life generating capacity. It's a jewel in the cosmos that is capable of springing life just from forth from the soil anywhere you go. There's life everywhere all over this planet. It's has tremendous value. Human beings have less value. So I think that's the part we need to wrap our minds around. But anyway, I want to come back to the chat. Oh, five crows. This for you being serious on climate change. Oh, well, thank you so much. Um, look, I get heat for the climate stuff, and people go, this is how they do it. It's so stupid. It's like the way people do this is so petty. They go, I was a sub until you started talking about politics. Okay. Oh, you started talking about climate change. If you're one of those people, I can't be a sub to your channel. I can't watch your content. Okay. So fuck off. I don't know what to tell. Those people, if I'm sorry if I'm offending, I'm sick and tired of letting the foolish people in the room dictate the conversation that the rest of us get to have. And it's like it's the idiots in the room who are just afraid of either they're unwilling to look at the reality that's out there that's staring them in the face, or they don't care, or they're too stupid to understand it. I don't have time for that shit anymore. I just don't. And if you are a parent of a young child, if you're a parent of an old child, if you have any investment in this planet, if you wake up and you like to be alive and you want to go outside and enjoy your life, and when it's a nice day outside, you go out and you enjoy the weather and you feel good. If you're invested in that, in the human experience, then this concerns you. Okay. The reason that the UFO conversation is so critical and so important and so fascinating isn't necessarily just because it's UFOs, although that part is really amazing and interesting. It's because it is a gateway into all of these other very important conversations that we should be having but are not. What should it mean to be human? What do we want it to mean? What kind of life, minimum standards of living do we want for everyone on this planet? How can we create a civilization and a society that endures and doesn't extinguish itself through nuclear holocaust or environmental collapse? It's a way into those discussions, these global topics. And I think that's important. So, as important as talking about contact with other species, all these things are critical and it is important. But then let's assume this all happens the way that we think it will. There's going to be a day after that. There's going to be like the day after contact. And we're going to have to get up and start conducting ourselves in a different way to exist in a world where we are not the only intelligent civilization. And the other intelligent civilizations that we have contact with will probably appear to us like gods. So we won't have any kind of like framework to handle this unless we start having this conversation now. And that's why I do this channel. And that's why I'm so excited that you guys are a part of this and that it's taken off the way that it has. So I owe all of you a thank you, a huge thank you for just being a part of this conversation and taking it seriously. I know how it sounds. I know how crazy it sounds. Believe me, I know. It feels weird. I had to really struggle with this. When I decided to start this channel, it wasn't because I was just like willy-nilly going to do something and I thought, oh, this will just work for me. I really struggled with this decision because I'm a parent, I'm a father, I have another career, I have other things going on. Do I really want to be the guy that's out there talking about aliens? But the more you look at it, the more seriously you take it, the more you realize that this is it. This is the conversation that they're going to be talking about this moment 10,000 years from now. They're going to look back, whatever the future looks like. They're going to look back at this moment in history. And this is what Danny says. There's going to be a demarcation in history, pre-contact and post-contact. And you guys are here. Like we're here. We're watching this happen. That's amazing. And you're part of 1% of people, 1% of 1%, maybe, that really understand what's going on. I'm telling you, when it does all go down, most people are going to lose their fucking minds. So don't be like them. Don't be those people. You need to like Get your head on a swivel, pay attention, educate yourself. Look at who's talking. Look at the smart people in the room. Look at the smart money in the room. Look at what they're doing. Watch them. All right, let's look at some Danny Sheehan clips because I can only talk for so long and then eventually you guys are going to get bored. So let's look at Danny Sheehan's clips. I'm going to start with clip number 1. This is, oops, here we go. This is Danny talking about the 5 different species that they have identified. I'm just going to play it, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
And very importantly, they now know that there are at least 5.
Oh, hold on. No audio. Let me fix that. Species. Okay, here we go. 5 different species.
And very importantly, they now know that there are at least 5 non-human species that are highly intelligent and highly technologically developed that have in fact been coming to our planet in these craft. And that there are small grays, they call them, about 3.5 feet tall. The classic, if you ask the average 5th grader in the country to draw an ET person, they'll draw the ET person for you. Large head, big, huge, dark, oval eyes, 3 fingers, 3.5 feet tall, etc. There are the tall grays that are as high as almost 6 feet tall, that are the exact same version of this. There are the reptilian species. We need to recognize that each and every one of us during our gestation period in our mother's wombs go through a kind of reptilian stage where we have gills and tail and the whole because of the evolutionary process here on our planet of our species, that we pass through a reptilian stage in the zygote as we develop in our mother's wombs. What appears to have happened is elsewhere in our galaxy, one of the species has actually, at that particular point in their evolutionary process, have in fact branched out into higher and higher intelligence and become highly technologically developed. And I've actually talked directly to people who stood face to face with a 6 feet tall reptilian being,
Can we just pause there for a second? I have just digest what he just said. Civil rights hero, famous Harvard educated attorney Daniel Sheehan, have stood face to face with someone. I've been in the room with someone who has stood face to face with a 6 foot tall reptilian. What? Okay, let's carry on.
Standing right in the living room with them, okay? And that there's another species which is like much taller, almost 7 feet tall. They call this particular species, they call them the mantis people, because they're extraordinarily tall, very, very thin. They kind of lean forward like this, like they look like a praying mantis. They're actually referred to sometimes as insectoids, which is kind of a negative characteristic of them. But whenever they're seen in the presence of any of the other of the species, they seem to be in charge. They are giving directions as to what is to be done. These species actually exist. They've been coming and going from our planet from at least 1945, on that date of July 16th of 1945, when we detonated the first atomic bomb on our planet. We know this to be true, and very importantly, we know that our United States military and our United States intelligence agencies know about this.
That's just the first clip. I have 3 more. I should have like 6 more, but I have 3 more. It's 1 clip. We're just getting started. What? Praying mantis? reptiles. I, I don't know how do you even respond to that? If it was anybody else, I'd be like, I don't know. But I believe Danny Sheehan. I do. I just do. I talked to him on the phone. He's like a cool grandpa guy. He's just like a regular dude. He's just super smart, real person. And this isn't performative. This is an attorney who has represented some of the most well-known figures in ufology for decades. I'm just going to go to the next clip. Let's just go to the next clip. I don't even know how to segue. Here we go.
And we also know that it appears that these different species have bases here on our planet, high up in the remote mountain regions where they're away from all of the people's observations, and very remarkably under the seafloors on our planet. There is one of these bases just down off Baja in California, down off south of Los Angeles, off Baja, off a place called Guadalupe Island. And the USS Nimitz, a full battle carrier group, was placed there to monitor them. They monitored over 100 of these UFOs coming and going, coming down from outer space and going under the water at that spot, being monitored under the water by the nuclear submarines that were attached to the USS Nimitz battle group.
There's 5 more minutes to go in this clip. But just take that on board for a second. The Nimitz Carrier Battle Group, nuclear submarines, identified over 100 individual USOs or UFOs or UAPs, depending on what your vocabulary of choice, coming and going from an underwater base near Baja. One base. There's not just one base. There are many bases. I don't know if anybody knows how many there are, but there's a lot more than one. So I'm just going to put this out there before we continue with this clip. Whatever's going to happen is already over. Like, whatever's going to happen is already over. If there's that many, let's go on.
They've analyzed this. We know that there's a base down there. The former 4-star admiral of the United States Navy, Tim Gaudet, who is the head of NOAA, actually asserts that they have a good faith belief that there's a base underneath the seafloor there off Baja. Very, very importantly, that members of these species have in fact been abducting human beings.
Okay. Are you ready for this, or should we stick with the base for a second? What do you say, chat? Let me know in the chat. You want to go on to abductions, or do you want to stay with this for a minute? Questions, thoughts, feelings. Talk amongst yourselves. Rhett Carlson, Danny wouldn't say Tim Gallaudet said this if he didn't say it. That's a fact. That's a fact. I think if you hear Danny say it, if Danny says someone's name, you can take it to the bank. Adam Durden says, all the way, we need the whole truth. Miss Tasha 217, let's go. Stick with the base. Chief Houdini, stick with the base. Okay. Let's stick with the base for just a second. 100. Here, you want some spooky music? Let's get. Here we go. Where's some spooky music? Oh, I don't know what happened to it, but here we go. If there's a base under the ocean floor and 100 individual craft have been identified coming and going from it, at least. And we know there's more than one base, or we should suspect that there are many more bases. I think that would be fair. See, this is the chain of reasoning, right? It's a crazy chain of reasoning. That's why this rabbit hole is so wild. This is the most exciting conversation anywhere happening anywhere, period. Full stop. Especially if you are in your like 30s or 40s or 50s right about now. Like if you grew up on ET and Close Encounters and Star Wars and Star Trek and all of the science fiction produced during the 80s and 70s and 80s and 90s, if you grew up on that stuff, you have been culturally programmed to be ready for this moment. I want you to think about that. Maybe that's intentional. I don't know. I can't prove it, but we do know that Disney was hired by the CIA. Chris Mellon says it. It's in the book. Hired by the CIA to dissuade people from the belief that UFOs and UAPs are real. And I'm fairly convinced. In fact, I'm convinced that the Flight of the Navigator, that movie specifically, shows and displays UAP or a UAP craft performing some of the flight maneuvers that were described many years later, that weren't really described in detail until recently. Specifically, the drop from orbit to like 6 feet above the ground in less than a second. That they show that in that movie. So there's a part of me that's convinced that a lot of the stuff that you've been exposed to in science fiction over the last 30, 40, 50 years was put there specifically. Ronald Reagan talked about this when he saw E.T. He stood up and he said, everybody in this room knows that what you saw in that movie is real. So this is the moment. If, I'm just speculating here, if that was intentional, it's interesting that it's happening right now. Well, this generation is kind of running the show. I don't know. What do you guys think? Brian Park says, I'm not ready yet. Perplex says 4chan leaks talked about a base in the Bermuda Triangle. I was talking to somebody the other day who says they're 100% convinced that 4chan is straight up intelligence agents just holding hands. Like that's what holds that whole server together. Absolutely, this is the most important conversation. Miss Tasha 217. I wish I had someone around here to talk to about it. I know, right? That's why we're here. We're a support group for UFO believers. If you believe that this is real and this is worth talking about, this is your support group. The planet's a honeycomb chamber and probably no pollution there. Interesting. Paris diamonds. And my friends all roll their eyes and my family pretty much walks away. Red Carlson, I'm 51-year-old Gen Xer. I'm ready. Brett Higgins, what does Jack Burton say on a night like this? The check is in the mail. Let's go on. Let's just go on to the next. Let's go on to the next clip. We're going to go on into abductions now. So,
over the past 75-year period,
buckle up.
Here
it comes.
They actually appear over people's homes in the night. They actually take people into custody involuntarily. They actually involuntarily remove egg cells from females. sperm cells from males. And what they're doing is they're taking these 24 chromosome egg cells and sperm cells, and they're combining them with 24 chromosomes of their ET genetic material, and then they're reimplanting them in the uterus of the human women, males.
That's weird that this is not cutting away. It's still on this one person in the audience. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix this. Let's go here. It shouldn't be that. It's Danny talking. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right.
And they actually appear over people's homes in the night. They actually take people into custody, egg cells and sperm cells, and they're combining them with 24 chromosomes of their ET genetic material, and then they're reimplanting them in the uterus of the human women, and allowing the zygote to evolve for the full trimester. And then these human women are being abducted again and taken into custody, and the zygotes are being removed, and they're no longer pregnant after the second abduction. And these hybrid children are in fact being brought to full term by the ET people, and that the people that are involved in that include not only the short grays and the tall grays, but also the mantis people. That I'm just telling you what.
Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. I think we're having some technical difficulty. My stream. There we go. All right, I'm going to see if I can work this out. Hang on a second. Okay, I think we're back. All right, let's pick this up where we left off. There was some kind of there was a problem with my stream, and as you all know, I'm sure, especially if you're in your 40s, a healthy stream is critical. So we're gonna pick back up. I think I fixed the stream problem. Let's go back to the finish this clip.
It is that the United States and taken into custody, and the zygotes are being removed, and they're no longer pregnant after the second abduction. And these hybrid children are in fact being brought to full term by the ET people, and that the people that are involved in that include not only the short grays and the tall grays, but also the mantis people. That I'm just telling you what it is that the United States intelligence agencies know is going on, okay? And that they're not telling you about this, and they're concealing this information. Very, very importantly, we know that some of the United States military people have been engaged in an activity not only seeking to recover crashed UFOs, but that they are in fact engaged in an active program militarily forcing down UFOs. That you heard some of the accounts here that Kevin was talking about where they've been shooting at them. But the fact is that they've developed a capacity to knock them down out of the sky and to take custody of them. And that they've taken into custody the occupants of some of these craft. They've interviewed them. They have a base. The United States military has a base that's coordinated by Lockheed Martin. It's called S4. It's in Nevada. It's some 11 miles away from Area 51 that you hear so much about. But I have talked face to face with individuals who've been present while the ET beings are being interviewed. And in the interviews, the ET beings acknowledge that they're here, that they're extraordinarily concerned about the fact that our species has developed thermonuclear weapons, that we're on the brink of having a thermonuclear war, which threatens the life-generating capacity of our planet. That among all the tens of billions of planets that are in our galaxy, it's a comparatively rare event to have one of these planets that actually gestates life. Obviously, there are others than our Earth. They've gestated these other species, okay? But the fact is, this is a comparatively rare phenomenon in the galaxy. And therefore, they cannot allow just one species that has evolved on this very special planet to destroy the life-generating capacity of this planet. And that we're doing so in two different ways. Dr. Garrison has pointed out both of these. One of them is the threat of major thermonuclear war, and the other one is the massive climate change, pursuant to which we are altering the organic system by means of which our planet regulates the temperatures and the organic functioning of our planet. This cannot be tolerated. And the fact of the matter is that they've been taking steps to try to warn people about this for the last 75 years. There are literally hundreds of examples of people who, during the abduction experience, have had communicated to them the warnings that they need to convey to the world to disassemble these nuclear warheads and to step back away from the use of thermonuclear weapons as a method of war. We've been warned over and over again to develop alternative sources of energy to the burning of fossil fuels, that we're now right on the very edge of the threat of the increased global mean temperature causing the melting.
He goes on to basically describe the methane bomb situation in Siberia, the frozen methane underneath the Siberian tundra, that as the temperature of the planet increases, the tundra melts. And there's trillions of tons of methane frozen inside. And methane is, 400 times more potent greenhouse gas than CO2? So people have done the math on this. And if a methane burp happens from the Arctic permafrost, that's game over. That's game over. We would get like, I don't even know what the number is. It's enormous. It's something like a 10-degree. It would be like overnight, a 10-degree rise in temperatures. It would collapse civilization. And we're right on the cusp of that. To say nothing about the nuclear potential for nuclear conflict, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting real World War III vibes coming off the Middle East right now, and I'm nervous. I feel like I you know, I don't know how else to say this, but there's some dark shit going on over there right now, and there's a I have just this weird feeling that if a nuclear weapon were ever to be detonated in anger, in our contemporary time, It's going to be there, and it's going to be soon, and it's going to be the beginning of a chain of events that are going to be probably the end, unless they're stopped, unless there's some kind of intervention. Israel has lost its fucking mind. They've lost their fucking minds. Like, they are off the chain. They have gone completely mad, and they are going to get us all killed. I mean, I don't know how else to. I can't dance around it. I mean, it is what it is. You look over there, and like, if you're a parent, if you have a young child, if you look at the situation in Gaza and you look at what's going on, you have to say something about it. You have to admit that this is horrible. Like, we cannot treat other human beings the way that they're being treated around the world. Like, we have to grow up. We have to evolve. We have to become a species that is worthy of contact with other developed species. And this shit just doesn't float anymore. This, like, ethnic cleansing, bombing people in tents and hospitals and schools, and shooting at kids with sniper rifles, like, the kind of shit that's going on over there is inhuman. It's insane. And the fact that it's allowed to go on with American weapons, no less, is shameful. And I think what Danny is describing is a situation where we're going to be forced to evolve or perish, grow up or die. Like, we're really going to be faced with that decision. Just get our shit together, or we're not going to be allowed to play anymore. And the nuclear weapon thing is just going to be a non-starter for these beings. So we're going to go on to the next clip, and this is where it starts to get really weird. Hang with me. Hang with me. I'm about to rock your world.
And it's going to be extraordinarily important for you to understand that there is an uprising that is going on right now on behalf of making this information public. And we want you to become part of this. We want to integrate this at the academic level. We want the students to rise up in the same way that the students rose up against the Vietnam War. We want the studentry to rise up. This is your future. This is your future that we're talking about here. You know, and it's outrageous for you to be sitting in major universities where they've brought you together ostensibly to teach you to how to cope with the world, and that you're not yet dealing with this profound issue. Okay, not only the issue of UFOs, but the issue of the potential thermonuclear war, and the issue of global climate change. You've got to come to grips with all three of these things, because your world is getting set to change right out from under you. Okay, and you don't know it yet. So that those of you who get out ahead of the power curve and start dealing with this right now are going to be the ones that are the go-to people when the roof starts falling in on this issue. And you're going to be the one that people say, oh, I know a friend who's been talking about this. I know a person who's been trying to get courses taught at the university about this. Okay, that you want to start reaching out to help our fellow human beings prepare for this, because this is going to have huge repercussions on the geopolitical structures of our planet, the economy of our planet, the religious institutions of our planet, the domestic political institutions that we have. We have to work together to be able to maintain as much agency, as much sovereignty as we can possibly legitimately maintain in the face of the revelation of the existence of this extraterrestrial civilization.
Okay, pause. Let's just freeze right there. I want you to go back, and we're gonna back up. I want you to listen to what he just said again and really take this on board. And I'm taking note of the chat. I want to come back to something about the Israel thing, because we're not done with that. Hold on. Put a pin in that. Listen to what Danny just said. Let's back this up just a touch.
Possibly legitimately maintain in the face of as much agents that we have.
Here we go.
We have to work together to be able to maintain as much agency, as much sovereignty as we can possibly legitimately maintain in the face of the revelation of the existence of this extraterrestrial civilization. You know, the fact of the matter is they seem to be preparing now to potentially intervene directly to stop the thermonuclear war and to stop the total devastation of our ecological systems on our planet. Okay? And that means that the intervention is going to reveal their presence. And that's what's motivating a significant number of people in the Pentagon right now to be coming forward, trying to establish a systematic process for a controlled disclosure about their presence. Because they believe that if in fact this is put off and the Defense Department continues to lie about this, then what's going to happen is when the intervention takes place on the part of the extraterrestrial civilization, it's going to be totally disruptive. That people are not prepared for it, that they haven't prepared to know how to respond to it economically, politically, geopolitically, religiously, and theologically.
Okay. They're preparing to intervene, and we need to be ready to try and maintain as much agency as possible when the intervention reveals their presence. Now, he's going to come back to that point about agency and sovereignty. That's the part that gets a little uncomfortable. That's the part that gets a little weird, because it's not just like, oh, they're going to come here and help us out. It's like they're going to come here. They might stop a thermonuclear holocaust, and that could be construed as helpful, obviously. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be great after that. And I'm going to come back to the Lou Elizondo quote. We're going to bounce to Lou, and we'll come back to Danny and finish this. So real quick. And look, here's my thing about the Israel thing. People routinely will try to like short circuit this conversation by saying, well, it's complicated. It's complicated. It's thousands of years of history and it's all complicated. No, it's not. It's not complicated. Do you kill kids? Is it okay to kill a kid ever? If you're not okay with that, then it's not complicated. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Like, should we be murdering each other over land? Really? Over borders? Is that really what we need to be doing with our best? Should our best scientists and all of our funding and all of our money and all of our resources be devoted to a war machine that just never fucking stops ever? Don't you ask yourself ever, like, why are we still doing it this way? What is the end game here? What is the objective? What is the point? Where does this go? What does this lead to? There is no future in this kind of conflict. There's no future to it. The future ends in a mushroom cloud. Hundreds of mushroom clouds. That's the end. That's where this goes. So what I'm asking you guys to do as Team Night Shift, as people who watch this show, if you spend any amount of time listening to what I'm saying, trust me, I know how crazy all of this sounds. I do. But I challenge you to, even if you don't buy into all of this, the alien UFO stuff, I'm pretty invested in most of this stuff being accurate. That's why I spend so much time on it. But even if you don't feel like that's the case, or there's still a lot of questions, and there are, we still need to see more proof. I'm totally on board with that. But you have to admit, this opens the door to a lot of very important conversations about what exactly it is. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are we really going to spend, like, every stealth bomber is how many hospitals? How many hospitals and schools could we have built with every cruise missile, with every aircraft carrier? You know, for the amount of money that has been spent bombing Gaza, these are helpless, homeless people living in absolute destroyed desolation with no food, no water, no medical supplies, no help. And they just bomb the shit out of these people every fucking day, again and again and again and again. And then they're like, move over here. And they drop bombs on that. And they escape over here. You got to leave this part. You got to go over there. You can't be in the north. You got to go. And now they're going into Lebanon and they're going into Iran and they're going to start. This is going to continue. This thing has gone off the rails. And so as a matter of like just humanity, of our common humanity, I'm not asking you to like look at this from a political standpoint. I'm asking you to evolve yourself out of the political bullshit that you have been suckered into believing is necessary, because it's not. It's just not. We can change this. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be pleasant, but if you let these people run the show, if you keep leaving these people in charge, if we let them continue the way that they've been going, there is no future. I can promise you that. It's just not there. So when I talk about this conflict, I'm not trying to tell you like I have a stake in the outcome of which, government is in charge of the situation. It's not that. I'm talking about as a human being who has traveled around the world, and I have lived in a mud hut in the jungle. I have been to the top of the Andes Mountains. I have been all over the world. And everywhere I go, the thing that just constantly shocks me every single time is just how much we are all alike. Everybody just wants to get up, play with their kids, hang out, have a good time. Most people aren't trying to hurt anybody. Most people aren't trying to dominate anybody. They're just trying to live their life. And then you watch the news and you're like, well, why, what the fuck is going on? Russia's going into Ukraine. These people are going to continue to escalate this until we start launching nuclear weapons at each other. And that's where this ends. So I'm just saying, like, as part of this conversation, what Night Shift is trying to bring to the table is a level of maturity and sanity that I think the adults in the room need to have in order to have the conversation going forward. I have watched during my lifetime the very serious conversation about climate change be ignored and made fun of and sidelined and short-circuited and put off onto the back burner so many times that now we are at a crisis point that is almost we almost can't recover from. Probably we may already be past that point. And those very same people are going to march us right into the mouth of World War III if we let them continue on. And even if you don't believe that's true, you have to ask yourself, should we really be tying up this much of our human output, our resources, our human potential in weapons manufacturing? Is that really what we should be doing with our time when we could be building colonies on Mars? We could be exploring the solar system. We could be solving scarcity. We could be solving hunger. We could be solving all of these problems that are right here in front of us on Earth today. And I just would submit to you, what would it do for the world if we took, I don't know, $1 trillion a year? That's our annual military spend in the United States, $1 trillion a year. What if we just took $1 trillion and we went around and we just started fixing shit? What if instead of annihilating people with depleted uranium and giving their great grandchildren birth deformities for the rest of time, what if we just, I don't know, started helping people, go into Gaza and say, what do you guys need? What can we do for you? And put no strings attached. That's the kind of mindset that it's going to take to exist in a post-contact world. And I know what that sounds like. I know how absurd it sounds like. You can't imagine how we're ever going to do that. But we have to start thinking about that. We have to start thinking that way. Someone has to. Someone has to. You have got to put this out there. You've got to make this a part of your mindset, this humanist approach to like how we look at the world. You look who's on my desk. It's Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the United Federation of Planets. You know who's next to him? Number 1. Riker, William T. He's from Alaska. Over here, these are my Christmas ornaments. OG. Kirk, James T. He's from Iowa. He only works in space. Spock, you may know him. Leonard Nimoy. All right. The reason they're on my desk is as a reminder about the kind of future that I would like my child to grow up in, and his children, and hopefully all of yours and many more generations. I would like to see that positive outcome for humankind. So that's the conversation I'm trying to have here. Now, let me, I'm a little bit, let's get out of this. And I want to go to the Lou Elizondo clip. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. I get a little fired up about this because it's important to me. I think it's meaningful. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay, we're still trying to recover from this. We have a weak stream. I need to restore that. So hang tight, everybody. Hang tight. Dropped frames. We got a lot of dropped frames. All right. Here we go. All right. Is it still laggy or are we back? I think we're back. How's the health of our stream? We have a healthy stream, strong stream? Good. All right. I think we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. My internet just kind of comes and goes sometimes, and it's just frustrating. But let's go to this clip from Lou Elizondo. This is Lou being interviewed on Jessie Michaels' American Alchemist podcast. And it's the most important clip of the entire interview, but it's a fucking awesome interview, and you should watch the entire thing. But just watch this one clip. It's less than a minute and a half long. And I think you're going to find it very interesting. And then we'll bounce back to Danny.
Right. Actually, in the forward of the book, you say this is not meant that there's, some sort of imminent threat necessarily. But I'm not going to lie. When I spend time with you, we've spent a decent amount of time together. I get the sense that you're sitting on things that feel like very hard truths. It feels like your existence, like you want to say more, and you feel like you are you're holding it together. And that's a tough spot to be in. And so to the extent you can talk about what might be imminent, what is imminent?
Time is not a luxury that we can afford. The time has come, we need to start having the conversation collectively. We should have had it a while ago, but we really need to start having the conversation.
I can't think of a better note to end on.
No, Jesse, that's not the note you end on. Now you ask a follow-up, a very important follow-up question. What the fuck are you talking about, Lou? I'm only kidding. Jesse's YouTube channel, his show is amazing, and he's very, very skilled. He has a very deft handling of his interviews, and he's able to get people to loosen up and talk about things that they otherwise probably wouldn't say. And I think it's well worth your time to go watch that full interview. But listen to that. This is just a few days ago. So now you have the Yale teach-in events, right? Yale University, Danny Sheehan, Jim Garrison, talking about nuclear holocaust, ecosystem collapse, alien intervention. Let's go to the last Danny Sheehan clip. Now you have Lou here saying, we need to start having this conversation. We should have started having it a long time ago. Time is not a luxury we can afford. All right, let's finish the last Sheehan clip. Here you go.
Okay, not only the issue of UFOs, but the issue of the potential thermonuclear war, and the issue of global climate change, You've got to come to grips with all three of these things, because your world is getting set to change right out from under you, okay? And you don't know it yet. So that those of you who get out ahead of the power curve and start dealing with this right now are going to be the ones that are the go-to people when the roof starts falling in on this issue. And you're going to be the one that people say, oh, I know a friend who's been talking about this. I know a person who's been trying to get courses taught at the university about this. Okay, that you want to start reaching out to help our fellow human beings prepare for this, because this is going to have huge repercussions on the geopolitical structures of our planet, the economy of our planet, the religious institutions of our planet, the domestic political institutions that we have. We have to work together to be able to maintain as much agency, as much sovereignty as we can possibly legitimately maintain in the face of the revelation of the existence of this extraterrestrial civilization. You know, the fact of the matter is they seem to be preparing now to potentially intervene directly to stop the thermonuclear war and to stop the total devastation of our ecological systems on our planet. Okay, and that means that the intervention is going to reveal their presence. And that's what's motivating a significant number of people in the Pentagon right now to be coming forward, trying to establish a systematic process for a controlled disclosure about their presence. Because they believe that if in fact this is put off and the Defense Department continues to lie about this, then what's going to happen is when the intervention takes place on the part of the extraterrestrial civilization, is going to be totally disruptive. That people are not prepared for it, that they haven't prepared to know how to respond to it economically, politically, geopolitically, religiously and theologically, you know, and philosophically. This is something that needs to be done at the academic level. All of these departments have to mobilize now and start to prepare our people for this intervention that's getting ready to take place. Okay, we want this to be as amicable as possible. We want to get on famously with the extraterrestrial civilization. We don't want to lose our sovereignty. We want to be able to maintain as much self-governance and control as we can on our planet. But the fact of the matter is,
did you catch that? Let me just roll back one more time for the people in the back.
Terrestrial civilization, we don't want to lose our sovereignty. We want to be able to maintain as much self-governance and control as we can on our planet.
We don't want to lose our sovereignty. We want to maintain as much self-governance and control as we can on our planet. We got 2 minutes left in this clip, but let's just take a second. Let's just take a second. Everybody take a deep breath. He's describing a situation where it's not like Independence Day where like the ships just show up. It's going to be, what he's describing is a situation where they're already here and they just appear. And it sounds like he's describing a scenario where they are going to present us with an ultimatum. In the Lou Elizondo interview on Jessie Michaels' channel. Now, that clip I just showed you is only about a minute long, and it doesn't give you the full conversation, but that's part of a larger conversation that he has. And that conversation, just prior to this, they talk about if you had technology that could do all of the things that I just described, like basically deliver the Star Trek future that we talked about a few minutes ago. If you had that technology, how could you give it to humanity without somebody like Kim Jong-un or Putin or whoever, take your pick of world leaders, or it could be an American, who a shitty American president, does something stupid and gets us all killed. Because we're talking about unlimited energy, more or less. And we're talking about instantaneous travel, more or less, which means that in an instant, you could build a bomb big enough to explode the entire world, and you could send it anywhere instantaneously. So like imagine sending nuclear weapons to the capital of every country in the world all at once with the ease of sending an email. That's the kind of power that he's describing, more or less. So he says, how can you get everyone in the sandbox to play with this toy? And you have to guarantee that no one in the sandbox takes advantage of the toy to get control over everybody else. And what I'm hearing from Danny right now is he is describing an intervention that basically ends in some kind of an ultimatum. Like the Lou thing. He goes on to say, well, or I think it was Jessie who says, well, what if the ETs oversee this process and they come in and they say, okay, we'll give you the technology, but we're going to make sure that everything's okay. Lou comes back and says, are we going to be okay with an alien overlord? Because that's what you just described. You're describing an alien overlord situation. You're describing a superior civilization coming in and basically administrating like our society, overseeing it, and making sure that we don't kill each other, which takes us out of control of our own destiny, right? That's what Danny's trying to say. He's saying we have to maintain agency. We have to maintain some of our sovereignty. He doesn't say maintain sovereignty. He says some autonomy, some sovereignty, some agency, implying he's a brilliant attorney, so I'm trying to like parse his words carefully here, but it seems like he's implying that we're going to lose some autonomy. Like we don't come out of this fully in control of anything. So that's a question. There's a question mark there. Let's finish up this last clip and then we'll.
But the fact of the matter is that we have made the mistake of allowing 0.1% of the elite on our planet to take over and continue to run things for their own primary advantage. We are the beneficiaries, for example, here in North America, of a lot of the trickle-down theory of the advantage that we get from their elite rule. But the bottom line is that elite rule has led us to the edge of thermonuclear war right now, to ecological devastation. And so we've got to mobilize now. We've got to mobilize, we've got to educate our people, we've got to bring the academic community on board this, and this has to be done from the inside. And that's why we've come here today to Yale. That's why we're reaching out to the other universities today through the streaming process that we have, and that we want to get everybody engaged in utilizing all of the constitutional tools that we have at our disposal, all of the educational tools that we have at our disposal, so that this can be as peaceful and amicable a process as possible, this transition into an entire new era for our human family. This is going to be the moment that is going to be remembered for the next 10,000 years.
This is going to be the moment that's remembered for the next 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Remember Grosse Point Blank? Jeremy Piven. 10 years. It's been 10 years. 10,000 years.
Of how we make a history for our human family. We're right at the brink of this. It's always interesting to be at the very beginning of one of these major movements where you're trying to talk to people about this and people find it hard to believe that something extraordinary like that is going to happen and they don't even realize it. But that's what's happening right now.
That's what's happening right now. Okay, so first of all, let me take a pause here real quick. Megan says, I think they already have this kind of agreement in place. And ET said, look, you have about 70 years to give the human public the right to free energy and stop murdering, oppressing the innovation. I get that sense that this conversation happened a long time ago and it's been probably revisited a few times. And then they've been monitoring our progress and they've decided that we are now so far gone that they're going to have to step in and be the grown-ups. That's the sense that I'm getting. Why do I get that sense? Because John Lear was talking about this back in the 80s. He was saying there was some kind of an event that was going to happen. It's been around for a long time. And the conversation about an agreement, that's been around for a long time. So, I mean, these rumors persist despite all of the things that have happened. And now you're hearing them kind of summarized and delivered in a cohesive package from Danny Sheehan, Jim Garrison, and the rest of the New Paradigm Institute team. And New Paradigm Institute, NPI, has positioned itself as the tip of the spear, the edge of the knife, the organizational hub for political action on this issue. And they are trying to get out and make a case to the American public and to the world at large that this is the situation we find ourselves in. This is what we need to start doing to prepare for it. And it seems like they're doing their damnedest to make sure that at least some people are having this conversation. So we're trying to amplify that here at the Night Shift by talking amongst ourselves about this and speculating. Great point, Megan. I don't disagree with you. Welcome, George. Welcome aboard, new member, George. You can become a member if you're watching this on YouTube, there should be a join button at the bottom of the screen. You can click that and you can become a member that way. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see. Who else? Reign of Rain, welcome aboard, new member. Larry Buffenmeyer, welcome. Sebastian says, humanity is like a huge dysfunctional family. We need intervention. We've proven that. Clint is right. We're spiraling down a rabbit hole fast. I don't disagree. I think the system either has to break, catastrophically come apart at the seams and collapse. And then from the ashes of that would rise whatever, which could be horrible for a long time, or it could be great. I don't know. But I don't see the system as it's set up right now sustaining itself indefinitely. It's too complicated. It's too much of a pressure cooker, and we're introducing too many weird variables into it, especially with AI. I think that's going to be, when I say AI, I'm not talking about like the algorithm that picks your next song on Spotify. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Ray Kurzweil, artificial superintelligence, where you go in and it's basically like a god, and you can ask it anything, and it has access to all of human information, and it thinks it's super computational speeds and can outperform all human beings on Earth at any task. I think that's what I'm talking about. So we're going to add to that, to this complicated, fucked up, crazy system. We're going to supercharge it with artificial superintelligence, and not just one, but many. I don't see how we keep the wheels on this thing. I really don't. George Lambert says, we are technically in an ice age. I would like to have a way to send you the UN report from 1969 where they discussed how to analyze climate change. It doesn't matter what they did in 1969. What matters is what's happening right now today. I just got through another hurricane. I just went through this. Millions of people are getting exposed to catastrophic weather events that are indescribably horrible. And it's not an accident. It is clearly, I'm so tired of people trying to jujitsu their way through this conversation by finding some way to explain the climate situation that's some other way than what it actually is. There's this persistent mindset that it cannot possibly be that we're burning billions of barrels of crude oil every single day. There's no way. Like, how can people, how is this still a thing? We're changing the chemistry of our atmosphere. It's not complicated. It's so simple, and we're doing it at scale, and we've been doing it for a century. Guys, come on. Like, everybody who wants to sit here and like parse this apart and be like, well, it's a cycle and there's, you know, when there's this activity on the, you know, we have to look at the whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, this is where we are today. This is where we are now. And if you're not willing, if you're willing to accept that sun cycles have something to do with this, then you have to also accept the fact that when you change the chemical makeup of the entire atmosphere for a whole planet, you are geoengineering the planet. You're creating a new environment, a new climate system that did not exist before. And all of our infrastructure for this civilization was built for a climate that no longer exists. And all I'm trying to say is that there's no way out of this. We're in it. We're up to our eyeballs in it. And it's a huge fucking problem. And if anybody out there thinks that we can just keep pumping fossil fuels out of the ground and burning them willy-nilly at the rate that we've been burning them, which is increasing every single year, you're out of your mind. And I don't have time for it. I really don't. So I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but guys, like, it's time to wake up, grow up, or get the fuck out. Like, I don't have time for this shit. It's real. It's happening. It's basic chemistry. It's basic physics. It's basic science. Like, if you guys can't see it for what it actually is, then I have news for you. You have been duped. You have been manipulated. You have been tricked by a cabal of greedy fossil fuel executives. I'm not making this shit up. This is real. That knew as far back as the 1950s, 1959, they predicted internally what was going to happen. This is the most telegraphed punch in human history. And I'm sorry, but I'm fucking over it with these climate change isn't real, or it's not us, or it's something else. It's not. It's not. It's just fucking not. And I'm over it. I'm tired of letting the minority of people who just refuse to look at the facts and accept them for what they actually are dictate the pace of fucking progress for the rest of us. Like, fuck off. For real. This is serious shit. This is a real fucking problem. If you're a parent, if you have children that are growing up right now, you have little kids, they're growing up in a world that is chaotic, unpredictable, and insane. It's going off the rails. We have destroyed the climate. We have wiped out the ecosystem. We have depleted the environment around us to an alarming degree, a shocking degree. Within a decade or two from now, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish by weight. That's a fact. Your body, as you sit here watching this right now, is filled with microplastics and forever chemicals. Forever chemicals. There's no fucking way to get rid of these things. They're in you forever. They find plastic, microplastics, in the umbilical cords of newborn babies, in the brain tissue. We've got to wake up. We have got to get our shit together. You have got to start taking this seriously, and not just take it seriously, but act as if it is a serious situation, a threat to your personal well-being. Because I have news for you. The media will suck you into this culture war nonsense that leads nowhere. It gets you going in circles like a fucking hamster on a wheel going nowhere, arguing about this, that, and the other that has nothing to do with the actual brass tacks reality of survivability of this planet and the ecosystem that supports our civilization. It's collapsing. And it's not just me saying this. This is the smartest people in the world saying this. And it's not just the smartest people in the world saying this. It's them plus the Pentagon saying this and the Australian Ministry of Defense. They all know this. Every country that has a navy and has bases near the water is preparing for catastrophic sea level rise, multiple simultaneous weather events that are going to disrupt the patterns of life on this planet in a way that makes it impossible to carry on an organized, cohesive global civilization. How many crop failures do you think it's going to take? How many shitty harvests do you think it's going to take? What is the price of wheat going to have to reach before we start seeing conflict break out all over the world because of food scarcity? They're already saying this year chocolate is more expensive than it's ever been because of the fact that it's really hard to grow anymore. It's hard to create chocolate. Coffee, same thing. A lot of the staple foods that you're used to are just getting harder and harder to produce. There's going to come a point where our climate is no longer predictable enough. Our rain patterns aren't predictable enough to produce staple crops at scale and feed billions and billions of people. And when that happens, you are going to see this entire planet come unraveled, assuming it doesn't happen beforehand because of some stupid political decision that somebody makes. Sorry, but God damn it, I'm just so over it with the fucking climate change nonsense. And by the way, I just want to say too, like, where are the angry, like, where are the rest of the angry people that are just pissed off and over it? Like, just done. Like, I don't want to have this discussion anymore with climate change deniers. We've been letting them fucking run this discussion for 40 years. Oh, it's your carbon footprint. Oh, it's this, it's that. It's a sun cycle. Oh, it's some, it's an ancient, look at the geological, it's everything. It's anything but what it is. It's always something else. And it always boils down to, there's nothing you can really do about it anyway. So just live your life. I don't accept that. I don't accept it. I don't think that's not appropriate. It's not an appropriate response. We need to hold our politicians accountable to this. We need to make sure there needs to be absolutely drastic, immediate, total global cooperation. A fossil fuel treaty has to be signed. We have to immediately decarbonize. It should be at the level of World War II, what we did then. We should be doing that now. If we can create the Manhattan Project, surely we can find other ways to save our civilization. If we can build awesome weapons of war, surely we can build technologies that will help everyone. Surely we can do this. You have got to hold humanity to a higher standard. We have to look to something. You have to look towards something and have some kind of a vision for what it is that we want to become, aspire to be. I know it's corny, but that's why I choose Star Trek. That's why I pick Star Trek. I focus on that because that's a coherent picture of a possible world, a possible reality where we get our shit together and we're able to live in peace and celebrate our differences and become the best versions of ourselves and go out into the galaxy and explore and make contact with other civilizations and do all these amazing things and achieve the maximum potential that we have. And I think that that's worth looking towards, that's worth working for, that's worth aspiring to. And I would just hope that if you're open-minded enough to accept the wild conversation that we're having right now about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, all of it, I would hope that you're wise enough to draw the connection between the planetary level problems that we're facing right now and what's going on over here. These two things are not happening separate from one another. They are connected. They're absolutely tied together. That is what's so critical. That's why it's now. That's why it's right now. If you're wondering why it wasn't 30 years ago or 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 50 years from now, it's because right now, you look at all the projections across the board, look at all the projections. Ecosystem collapse right around 2050. That's basically what the projections are suggesting. Could be a little sooner, could be a little later, maybe 2065, maybe 2040, but right about 2050. The singularity, Ray Kurzweil, look at his chart, look at the predictions, 2045, 2050, maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit sooner. Contact, Danny Sheehan's telling you right now, prepare, get serious, take it seriously. We need to mobilize. Mobilize. Not like, oh, you should pick up a book and read about it and learn a thing or two. It's no, mobilize at the grassroots level. Universities need to be teaching this. People need to be talking about it. Local governments need to talk about it. National governments need to talk about it. It's a wild time to be alive, guys. Like, this is a crazy time to be alive. I understand how insane this conversation sounds. I get it. I do. And I know you guys sometimes feel weird about it. I understand. And when you're talking to other people who aren't into it, I get it. It feels weird. But no, just know, this is not like the flat earth thing. This isn't like some of the like crazy conspiracy. This is a real thing. This is really actually happening. That's the part that people can't, sometimes they just can't get over that hump. Look at the people telling you what they're telling you. On the NPI Disclosure Day stream that they did yesterday, which I understand is available on X, you could go to their X account and watch it there. But I think it was Carl Nell. There's a 7-minute clip of Carl Nell. 20 years at Lockheed and Northrop, aerospace executive, set up Army Futures Command. Clearly a person in a position to know what's going on. And he lays out the case, too. New Paradigm Institute, Lou Elizondo, his book, Danny's speech, all of these things, Carl Nell, Richard Dolan just put out a great video. All of this stuff is happening because it's coordinated this way. It's being coordinated this way. I'm convinced now. I was on the fence about it, but I am convinced at this point now that there is an organized effort to put this message out there, whether or not the military is on board or some of them or all of them. This is now out of their control. We are already in uncharted territory. We have moved past. It'll be great if the Disclosure Act gets passed in its full glory and we're able to get imminent domain and get our hands on some of this material. If that ever does happen, that'll be great. But whatever that situation turns into, what Danny is describing is imminent. That's what Lou is telling you. Danny's telling you. It's imminent. It's coming, one way or the other. And when these things show up, they are going to appear. Remember this. Keep this in your mind. I want you to really take this on board. Because if you're part of this, if we're all doing this conversation together and we're sitting here together around the campfire, we're talking about this seriously, you're part of a fraction of a percent that is doing this. When this shit goes down for real, people are going to lose their fucking minds. They're going to lose their fucking minds. If I see a cantaloupe, is that Bill Hader impression of Al Pacino? If I see a cantaloupe on that table, I am going to lose my mind. People are going to go crazy. These things are going to appear to be gods. They're going to have the capability of gods. We have never been in the presence of anything like that. We don't understand what that's like. That doesn't exist in our worldview for the average person, for 99.9% of people. Just they don't have a place for that. And when it does show up, it's going to shock them. It's going to rock them. It's going to melt their brain. And people are going to lose their fucking mind. I remember when COVID happened, how crazy people went over a roll of toilet paper. They were ready to shoot each other over a roll of toilet paper. And for my European friends out there and non-American friends, if you haven't spent any time in the States, everybody here is armed up, gunned up all the time. I'm in Florida right now. At any given moment, anywhere you go to the grocery store, 6 out of 10 people are packing heat. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. You get into an altercation on the road, be careful. Careful if you throw the finger at somebody and they decide to pull up next to you. This is in my neighborhood. I live in an upscale kind of part of Florida. It's a pretty wealthy area. And just in the last year, there have been 2 cases of people just getting shot because they got into an argument. 2 drivers on the road get into a fight. One guy pulls out a gun. Guess what? The other guy has a gun too. He pulls out his gun and they shoot each other. That's happened a lot. What's going to happen when the fucking ships appear? When these beings appear? What happens if we try to launch nuclear weapons and they get frozen in midair, or orbs appear and start deactivating these things? They fall harmlessly into the ocean, and it becomes immediately obvious that our nuclear deterrent is completely offline, and our offensive capabilities are offline, and not just for us, but the Russians, the Chinese, the Israelis. So whatever happens, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, and I don't want to get people all jacked up on the fear juice, but I'm just telling you, like, if you listen to what Danny Sheehan said and you take him at his word, which I do, then carefully go over his words and listen to it again, watch it again, pay attention to how he phrases it. We are going to have to work hard to maintain autonomy, sovereignty, control. That's important. Special thanks to Magic for another super chat. Let's see, who else? Let's go back to the chat. Welcome aboard, Kelly McNeil. Katie Brown, right here in this chat. Preach it. Backstabbeth, my man Clint with his finger on the pulse of truth. Oh, wow. I don't know if I have my finger on the pulse of truth, but that would be cool. Trevor Ironwolf, and on this episode of Night Shift, parental guidance is advised. It's Axel M says, it's really telling about the polarization of the general population that people won't have intelligent discussions about this and would rather just drop a super chat to loudly announce they're leaving. Club of Rome was right. Adam Wright says, Club of Rome was right. Club of Rome, they predicted it. Go on YouTube and look up Club of Rome prediction. Watch that video. 2040, 2050. All the numbers point to the same window of time. 2040, 2050. Well, as we sit here in 2024 at the waning days of 2024, it starts to wind down and we're looking towards 2025. Now imagine, look at where you are. Look around. Take note of the weather recently in your area. How many natural disasters have you experienced in your lifetime? How many have you experienced in the last decade? How about the last 5 years? How many have you seen? How many people do you know that have been through a tragic natural disaster that obliterated their home or financially wiped them out or completely took them out of the game for years because they have to now recover from this event? How many billionaires have you heard of that are building underground survival bunkers? Think about that. It's big business right now. Do you think they know something? Do you think that they might possibly just look at the data and do their projections just like anybody else? 25 years from now, what's the next 25 years going to look like? Well, if it looks anything like the last 25 years, this is the fucked up part. The climate thing doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. The only way it gets better is if we stopped burning. I'm talking no more airplanes, no more cars, no more anything made with petroleum or shipped with petroleum or delivered by petroleum. Like all of it stops. We basically go back in time 150 years and we start there. That's what it would take. And not just that, but we would have to also simultaneously flip the switch and start pulling carbon out of the atmosphere at an enormous rate. Millions of tons of carbon have to be pulled out of the filtered out of the air and the ocean. This planet is 70% ocean, and we have acidified all of it. We have acidified the entire ocean. It absorbs so much CO2 that the pH level of the ocean has changed to such an extent that coral reefs all over the planet are dying. They're going extinct completely. You have not been told. This is the thing I don't think really lands for people. You are not being told how bad things are. Period. You are not being told. You have been lied to. And I know I'm preaching. I understand. But somebody needs to tell you guys this. If you don't already know, I'm sure many of you do. But if you don't, it's not good. It doesn't look good. If this were a movie, we're in the last part of the movie. Like we're at the end where a guy gets up in front of the room and says, it doesn't look like we're going to make it. It doesn't look like we're going to make it. And if we're not going to make it and crazy shit starts to happen, don't be surprised. That's the part of the movie we're in. So they have let this thing spiral out of control. It doesn't seem like there's any meaningful, serious action to reverse it or stop it or slow it down. We're going to drive this thing right off the cliff. And the best people, the smartest people in the world right now are all working on AI, and they're working on algorithms and weapons design. They're not working on renewable energy. They're not working on any of this. Now, hopefully AI comes along and solves some of these problems, but fuck if I know. I mean, we're putting our future in the hands of Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and a few other billionaires who we probably will never know their names. And we have to also get rid of this idea that your intelligence is directly tied to your financial position. This bullshit that these billionaires are somehow smarter than the rest of us because of their tremendous stock holdings and the fact that they were able to effectively exploit their workers for decades and pocket the difference and make themselves tremendously wealthy. The 1% has declared a class war on all of us. And if you guys can't see that, then I can't help you. But part of that class war is the psychological operation of convincing all of us that because someone is a billionaire, therefore they have solutions and they have answers and they need to be in charge of our education system. And look at Palmer Luckey, the guy who invented the Oculus Rift. What did he go on to do next? He invented a fucking artificial intelligence weapons manufacturing company. That's what he does now. He builds drones that kill people. All these, and I get it. Like Optimus looks cool. The Boston Dynamics, these robots look amazing. They're not going to look so amazing when they break through your bedroom wall at 2:00 in the morning like the Kool-Aid Man and strangle you to death or kill your entire family. So anyway, but that's a conversation for another day, a special episode on AI. James Williams says we have to get rid of Citizens United before we can get any real climate plan on the table. That's a fact. I remember the day I was going to work and I listened to the radio and they were like announcing that the Citizens United thing had gone through, and they were just saying how awful this was going to be. And I remember thinking, man, this sounds horrible, and it sure has been. Capital holders won't allow it. They'd rather build doomsday bunkers to hide in with their billions. Scary close future. I see that in Greece. This is George. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, George. Trodla? Scary close future. I see that in Greece. We are coming here for more than something years now, and the devastation of the live reefs makes me almost cry every time I am there. It's gone. It's dead. I have a friend who is a fan of the show and a celebrity chef and specializes in exquisite farm-raised like fish and food, seafood. But not just any farm-raised. Like this is the elite top tier. Like these fish never swim in the same water for more than a few seconds. Like it's filtered. It's like the top tier. And his whole pitch, not his whole pitch, but one of the conversations we had, he was saying to me, he's like, people don't want to eat food caught in the ocean. The ocean is an open sewer. The really good food is produced privately. It's not just wild caught food is nasty. It's got bits of radioactive waste in it, and it's got sewage in it, and it's got plastic in it, and it's got all this stuff. And this is the future. It's going to be like the natural food that you can get from the environment is unedible or not desirable. And people who can really afford it are going to be able to get pure food that is created in a vertical farm or grown in some kind of high-end facility for them. But that's not going to be how we all live. I just thought that was a really interesting point. Jessie Loving, welcome aboard, new member. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Metzger Mysterio? F these robots and the dogs too. They already can be rigged to carry and fire guns. Drones with AK-47s are being used in Ukraine, coupled with autonomous AI, and we're in for a bad time. Yeah, not only that, there's some really scary footage of a drone being used. Drones, this is on Reddit. There's a subreddit called Combat Footage, and it's like body cam footage and cell phone footage of guys that are in combat in Ukraine. And there was one I saw recently, and they were sending a little drone, a little quadcopter drone into a building to find a guy, and it's flying around. And I'm thinking, if you're the guy that they're trying to find and you hear that thing and it's like buzzing around, imagine 100 of those things or 1,000. Each one has 10 grams of explosive. Imagine 1,000 robot dogs produced by an automated factory, each one armed with 10 pounds of explosive. And they're just chasing you and running after you. And then they get close and they just explode. That's it. The future of warfare is going to be fucking horrible. I mean, we're going to find new and exciting ways to make it awful. Class war. Adam Wright says 100% agree about class war beyond political identity, beyond policy. The 1% declared war on the rest of the species and world a long time ago. Yeah. I mean, look, I talk about politics to that extent here because it is political. This conversation is political. Like we have to think this way. We have to start you have to get out of the low level arguments and conversations that we're having down here about simple things that never seem to change. We have to start thinking more concretely about bigger issues because that's really where it's at. Okay, so I'm going to end with this. I want to just point out we talked about the Danny Sheehan presentation. We talked about the 5 different species. He talks about short grays, tall grays, insectoids, reptilians, and then possibly Nordics, which is interesting. Although I don't think he directly mentions Nordics, but Lou mentions Nordics in Imminent. So I thought I would read to you a couple quick selections from David Jacobs' work, which I think are relevant here. This is The Threat, and this is Walking Among Us. And in these books, Jacobs, who has interviewed hundreds of abductees and contactees over the decades, uncovered frightening patterns in their accounts of what they were exposed to, what they were shown, what they were told. And he has basically stitched together a picture of what he thinks is happening. And I think it's relevant here. If there's going to be some kind of an intervention, I'm just going to leave you with this thought, and then we'll look at 2 little excerpts from these books. If there's going to be an intervention, take on board the fact that you just heard Danny explain that there has been a longstanding abduction program, genetic engineering program, some type of a hybridization program. We know that there has been a history of this for a long time. Hybrids have been created somehow, and they look just like us. We've heard Robert Bigelow talk about this. He has directly said you could sit next to one in a restaurant. This is billionaire aerospace billionaire Bigelow, rhymes with Schmigelo, Bigelow saying you could sit next to one in a restaurant. You wouldn't even know the difference. You wouldn't know. If you were talking to one at a party, you wouldn't know. And David Jacobs says they have the ability to telepathically influence us and do things to make us see things, hear things, think things that are not our own thoughts. Now, I just want to read to you 2 little excerpts from these books. This is first one is from The Threat. And he describes some of the stuff that Danny just talked about. And this is page 92, the organizational chart. Let me just read a little bit to you. In fact, here. Is it this one? Okay. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. The organizational chart. Here we go. The aliens seem to have a recognized. Now, he goes into extreme detail in these books. Like this, just so you know, there's a lot of excerpts from interviews with abductees and regressions. So it's word for word conversations with the abductee explaining under hypnotic regression what they experienced or what they're reliving in those experiences. And he talks about the entire hybridization program, pregnancies, abductions, the creation of the hybrids. So this is from page 92, the organizational chart. That's what this is. The aliens seem to have a recognizable chain of command and clearly defined roles aboard their spacecraft. In my book, Secret Life, I pointed out that the shorter gray aliens act as assistants to the taller grays. The shorter aliens bring abductees to the UFO, take their clothes off, escort them to the examination rooms, and even do some non-specialized procedures. Shorter aliens rarely engage in extended conversation, and what they do communicate is usually limited to palliatives and reassurances for the frightened abductee. Researchers now know that the taller alien, whom abductees sometimes call the doctor or the specialist, to differentiate him from the others, often joins the abduction after The shorter aliens have performed an examination on the abductee. The taller being conducts the more complicated procedures. He takes the sperm and harvests the eggs. He implants embryos into the female abductees, and a few months later, he extracts the fetuses. He conducts staring procedures in which he can extract memories or information from the abductee, in which he can also elicit sexual arousal and orgasm. He engages in visualization procedures during which he can make the abductee see and even relive life events, or he can create entirely new events for the abductee to experience. The taller aliens appear to have more of a personality than the shorter ones. They will engage in dialogue with the abductee, but remain coy about the objectives of the abduction and about the specific procedures. There are suggestions of further differentiation of task according to sex. I have received no reports of female, smaller beings. All the females seem to be of the taller variety. Female aliens perform the specialized tasks, including gynecological and urological procedures and visualizations. Occasionally, they engage in mind scan and staring procedures. The main distinction is that the female aliens attend to the hybrid offspring. They bring the babies for the important physical interaction that they must have with abductees. They also watch over and direct the activities of the hybrid toddlers and young children. And he goes on, he says there are the standard grays, but there are also the Nordics, reptilians, insectoids, and robed or hooded tall beings. So that's from The Threat. Now, Linda Moulton Howe also gave a presentation in 2013 at the International UFO Congress, I believe it was. I could be wrong about that. Called The Taxonomy of Alien Beings, or she goes through the taxonomy, and she basically describes a similar setup that supposedly has been is what President Reagan was briefed on. Now, in Walking Among Us, this is about the hybrids after they're here. The hybrids are created, then they integrate with our society. They come into human society and apparently perform some sort of either intelligence gathering task or some kind of observational task. They have some other duty, or there's some kind of a sleeper agent, but they have some task to perform. And so in this one, let me see if I can find the page. Where is it? Where is it? He explains how the hybrids have to be taught how to be human because they don't know anything about human culture or human society. If they're raised for until they're 5 on board a craft, they come here and they're put in contact with an abductee, and the abductee is there to teach them how to go to the store and how to shop for food and how to do the things that, open a checking account or whatever, do the normal life things that you have to do. But one of the things that he goes into in a little bit of detail in this book, which I think is really interesting, is what that process looks like. How these hybrids, how awkward they are and weird sometimes because they just don't understand things that are very commonplace to regular everyday humans, and how there's this whole process that they have to go through where they are trained to blend in. And how sometimes they'll get an apartment, 3 or 4 of them together. And he goes into, it's crazy. I thought I had this page marked, and I don't think I do. Let's see. I may have to come back to this a different time. But he goes into these training procedures and explains it in detail. Personal project okay, so here's one. Security. So there are different types of hybrids that have different roles. I'm going somewhere with this. Stick with me. Security hybrids. This is just from page 128 of Walking Among Us. Security hybrids also make sure that the hybrids, these are human-looking hybrids, are safe and that the abductees are obeying orders and not endangering the integration program by talking to others about what they are doing. They are relentless and unyielding in their pursuit of obedience. Personal project hybrids often accompany abductees around and in some cases learn about the world themselves. For example, these are made up names in the book, but they're real people. Betsy's PPH, her personal project hybrid, whom she called Ken. This is really weird. It's really weird. Jacobs describes when he's talking to abductees, how often and how weirdly often, like it's so frequent, it's super weird. He goes, when we're talking, eventually we'll come upon the topic of a friend that they have. They have a friend, but they don't know anything about this friend. But they've had this friend for a long time. It's like a lifelong friend that they've known, but they can't really tell you where they're from or much about them. They just are always there. They're always around. They go to baseball games together. They do things together. They go shop. They hang out. This like person that's just with them and accompanying them all the time, like some kind of a close relationship. But for some reason, they can't quite put their finger on how they know this person or where they came from or how they got into their life. So he describes how sometimes these are hybrids that are assigned to an abductee to follow them around and basically be their handler. So that's what we're talking about here. He goes, Betsy's personal project hybrid, whom she called Ken, met her at a supermarket and asked questions about the foods she put in her shopping cart. He smelled the fruit and asked about whether she cooked eggs, meat, and a loaf of bread. On other occasions, he accompanied her on trips to the ophthalmologist and to her family doctor, sometimes sitting in the room where she was examined. The doctors could see him, but did not seem to care or pay any attention to him. When the decision is made to begin integrating into a specific geographic area, advanced hybrids are the first to arrive. Though we know very little about their activities at this stage, it is logical to suspect that abductees help the advanced hybrids become acclimated. Eventually, the advanced hybrids with abductee help find a location within their assigned geographic area suitable for the hybrids to live in and then obtain living quarters for them. Housing, usually apartments, must be safe and ideally near stores that are open 24 hours a day so they can satisfy daily needs. Walmart, Target, Walgreens, Kmart, or various supermarkets and convenience stores where they can enter late at night with minimum amount of human contact. Once the advanced hybrids have secured the accommodations, an independent hybrid moves into the living quarters. Soon the personal project hybrid introduces his abductee to the independent hybrid, who becomes the abductee's student, and like the personal project hybrid, a sexual partner. After the independent and the abductee have had a chance to establish a complex personal teaching relationship, the independent, the PPH, and a security hybrid take the abductee to see younger group hybrids who are also moving in. This is a very specific process. This is described in detail, a step-by-step process that these hybrids are supposedly integrated into our society. Now, here's my question for you. If there's going to be an intervention, and if it is imminent, does it not make sense that it would take the form of, wouldn't you want sleeper agents? Wouldn't you want people already in place at all levels of society that you could activate on the day and they switch on? Now, whatever it is they do, it still remains murky. We don't know. But we do have strong reason to believe that they can affect your thoughts and they can act in the mental environment in some weird way. So assuming that we are subject to their superior mental abilities, we are at the mercy of their telepathic abilities. What does that say? What does that suggest? Like, are we looking at a situation where one day everybody gets activated and you turn on the news and we start seeing ships appear over all these major cities in the world and suddenly like everything just comes to a standstill and stops? These people describe in detail, like being tasked with an objective. They have a job to do, but they cannot tell you what it is. These are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of abductees and supposedly hybrids. I want you to chew on that. Give that some thought, because that's a really, there's a nexus there that I think is very interesting, and I don't know of anybody else who's really looking at that right now. Rhett Carlson, like NHI hybrid sleeper cells, small groups infiltrated into communities, not to say they have malicious intent. And that's the other thing. They may not have malicious intent. I'm not saying that, and this is important, Pavel, hear me if you're watching. Pavel told me last week, he was like, I'm worried about you, man. You seem like really negative sometimes. I'm not trying to be negative, and I'm not trying to be a fear monger. I'm not trying to stir up shit just to see what it smells like. I'm trying to take this seriously. I'm trying to approach it with a level head and a very open mind. And I'm trying to look at the situation strategically and say, if this does go down, what can we logically expect to happen? There has to be a step-by-step way that it goes. And if you were going to intervene in the affairs of an entire species on a inhabited planet with a developed civilization, and your goal was to stop them from having a nuclear holocaust or collapsing the ecosystem, you can't half-ass it. You can't piecemeal this. This can't be a little bit here and a little bit there, and every once in a while you land and talk to 3 people. It's got to be huge. It's got to be enormous. It's got to be everywhere. It has to be all at once, and it has to be full blast. So what would that look like? If the numbers that we're hearing are accurate, and we have every reason to believe that they are, we're talking about not just hundreds, but thousands of UAPs, thousands of them. Hundreds from one base. We know that there are many bases. Of course, we've heard this for many years. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of craft. Some of these craft are the size of entire cities. Enormous craft. Go look up the pyramid craft that appeared above the Pentagon and another one in Moscow. Look how big those craft are. The Phoenix Lights. Enormous. Now, it just seems to make sense to me. And I'm not saying I know this is true. I don't. I could come out looking like a complete fool at the end of all of this. I'm fully aware of that. But if what David Jacobs describes in his book is accurate, then we have to assume that there are thousands and thousands of imposters, of sleeper agents, waiting to be activated for something. What are they going to do? Maybe it's entirely peaceful. Maybe they're there to just make sure no one goes apeshit and goes crazy. Maybe that's all they're there to do. But at the end of this, when it all completes, the process completes itself, humanity will be in the presence of vastly superior beings. And as far as most people are going to be concerned, they are going to be like gods, and people will treat them that way. They will create religions based on this. There will be all kinds of crazy shit is going to start to happen. You're going to see it. How do we handle that? How do we navigate that? That's a conversation that we need to have as a human family, as Danny would say. Okay. Pavel is just too good. Pavel is too good for us. Pavel, he's got that energy that we need more of. Let's see. I'm subscribing to Pavel too. I appreciate agreeing with his mindset as well. Paris Diamond says there's more than just one thing going on here with all of this. The Pentrick incident in Wales, Brian Park. Yes. This line of thinking makes sense. Intense as it is to imagine Reign of Rain. I would think that if you were going to do it, the right way to do it would be very slowly over a period of like a decade, right? Like if an intelligent non-human civilization was going to make contact, they would send a signal first, and then from there, my little one is standing next to me. From there, they would slowly start to approach, and they would give us time to deal with that situation. Hey, little buddy, I have a little alien of my own who just broke into my office. I know. All right, I have to wrap it there. I'm sorry, but I got an invasion of my own I have to deal with. But this one's more important. So do me a favor. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, please consider becoming a subscriber. If you want to support the work that we're doing here, you can do that by becoming a member. You can go to the Team Night Shift website. You can pick up a piece of merch. We have the best merch in the world. We really do. I promise you. All of our shirts, free shipping on all the shirts. It helps. It helps pay the bills, and it helps keep this on the air, on the internet. Don't forget to go to our Reddit page, our subreddit, Team Night Shift. You can join the conversation there, and you can also join the Discord. Go to teamnightshift.com and click on the Discord link, and that'll take you to where you need to go. On that note, I'm gonna wrap it there. Okay, buddy. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you, everybody. And reach out to me. Send me an email, send me a message. Let me know what you think in the comments. Oh, and by the way, one last thing. Some people have complained about the ads. There we go. Some people have complained about the ads. Let me turn that way down. And they've said that there are way too many ads. If you are one of those people and you feel like there's too many ads, let me know. Please tell me. I don't have I have a limited amount of control over how many ads there are. It's a YouTube thing. YouTube just does it, and I have to basically just roll with whatever they put in. So let me know if it's a real problem. I will look at it. I think there's some ways I can adjust it, but just so you know, it's not me. It's the way it shakes out. Thanks to Rhett, Chill Will, Paris Diamonds, George, Brian, Adam Durden, of course, Xander, the Xander Jones. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep looking up. Ooh.